Fresno, California today.
Okay, sometimes I hold my breath, yeah. I don't got no time to spare. I could go my way, go yours. You see real life, I see toys. I don't got no time to spare.
And we're live. What's up, everybody? My name is Stephan Pacheco. A lot of you guys know me as Steph the Pharaoh. If you don't, that's okay. You could just call me Steph. Today, I have a very, very special guest, the one and only Sylis Pacheco. He happens to be my brother. He's also based now out of San Diego. He's a real estate agent for Keller Williams, the Nahar Group, right? Najar Group? Am I saying
the Najar Group.
Najar Group. Okay, I totally chopped that up. But however, he's killing it. You know, that's besides the point. Sylis, he's his own individual. He stands out in my eyes in many different ways. A lot of people say he's a splitting image of me, but I think he's 10 times, 100 times better at everything that I do. I mean, it goes from skating to literally everything, you know. But, you know, he's my brother. He's 23 years old, right? 23 years old.
Shoot. Yeah.
Going to be 24
Time
soon.
flies.
Shoot, I'm going to be
Time
28 here. Yeah, time flies, man. Now, this is something completely different. I have not done interviews or anything before, but I've always felt this pull to kind of bring people together in my local community. You know, I actually wrote something 2 years ago. I wanted to embark on this journey, but I didn't really have the confidence in doing so because I always wanted to outsource, but at the same time, I wanted to do everything myself. And that's one of my biggest battles that I have had to overcome over the last few years because I was raised as like a lone wolf. And I just feel like that mindset held me back so much because I didn't want to ask for help. I just wanted to do everything myself. And that's how I kind of went about my life. But 2 years ago, August 25th, 2018, just really quick, I wrote this in my notes. I don't remember where I was, but I wrote this in my notes and I was excited about this. And I wrote, Luxic Vue. We're going to create video interview segments with people who stand for what we stand for, who correlate with our message, brand vision, and core values to understand what it takes to get and perform at levels of equal arrested performance, to inspire for growth, forward innovation, and responsibility for those who seek guidance. This is for you, those, the majority, from within, the vision to cure, assist, and defeat the social norm. One love. And that's what I wrote. And that still strikes a chord with me today. What I do want to do is, you know, bring my brother on because he stands for, I mean, everything that the brand represents, you know, and that's why he's here today. So without further ado, we have Sylis Pacheco, and this is the first ever interview segment. And I don't know what I want to call it, but at the end of the day, it's Luxic Vue Mindset, and we're going to get this show on the road. So Sylis, I want to know, I want to know, well, I know where you're from, number one. A lot of the people out there, they don't really know. Some people don't really know we're related. So tell us, Sylis, where are you from? And yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
For sure. Well, thanks first and foremost for having me. I'm excited to see where this goes. But yeah, so if you're from the Valley, I'm from Porterville. You know that. If you're not, Tulare County, Fresno, Bakersfield area, maybe have heard of those cities. It's kind of like right in the middle of those two. Yeah, so born and raised in Porterville. Now for the last just hit 5 years, I've been living and working here in San Diego, California.
Yeah. I love San Diego, man. I miss it all the time. For those that don't know, I lived out there for like 2 years. Me and my brother, before he got married, we were roommates for about 6 months. Those were honestly, Sai, I only moved to San Diego to move closer to you. And I'm glad before you got married, we got to spend those 6 months living together. It was really emotional for me. As you know, I'm kind of an emotional person. I used to not be, but you know, anyway, that was a very cool experience to hang out with you and to get to know you better because honestly, man, I mean, we're about 4 years apart, right?
Yeah.
About
Yeah,
four
just
solid
about.
years. So me and my younger sister, just for those who don't know, her name's Janessa. We grew up a little closer towards like high school, me and my sister. But shoot, me and Sylis go way back, obviously, since we were younger, just different endeavors. And I believe um, that has molded him into the person that he is today. But obviously, he's gone through a lot of things as an adult, getting married at a young age, and now soon to be father here in
Yeah.
3 weeks is the gender reveal. Close. We're cutting in close.
Yeah.
So 3 weeks is the gender reveal. I'm very excited for that. So Sylis, tell us about your childhood. How did you grow up, and when did you really understand that you wanted to go into business for yourself? Because now you're a real estate agent, very, very successful real estate agent in San Diego. And it's, cream of the crop competition, I feel like, out there, right?
It's everyone, they say everyone, there's more real estate license than driver's license out here.
Wow.
So yeah, you walk down the street,
Okay.
probably meet like 5 people that just got licensed. It's a common thing out here. So the competition is here.
Wow. Now, what sparked real estate?
It's funny. I look back in my senior year of high school. I think we were doing like kind of like a vision, like presentation where you want to be the next couple of years. And I was looking at this like a couple months ago, and I put on there real estate agent. So,
Really?
and I guess moving out here, I totally forgot about it. But now, like looking back, I remember I did want to get my real estate license only because I started watching the show $1 Million Listing in New York, and I was just like, I love this show. That's what I want to do. But moving out to San Diego, moved out here to go to school, go to college. So then that kind of, I guess, distracted me in the way where I forgot about, I guess, what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I started
Yeah.
going to school, classes, full-time
I
student.
remember that.
So that just, yeah, that kind of took just out of sight, out of mind. Not like I forgot. Well, I guess I forgot about it, but not like I didn't want to do it anymore. I just was focused on going to school, getting good grades, working towards the degree. But really, what reignited that spark and that interest was back, more recently when we were living together. We got into talking wholesaling, and at that point, and kind of fast forwarding already, but at that point, I knew we were engaged, Renee and I was going to get married. So at that point, I was like, I need something that I can make a decent income to survive and support, a wife. So obviously, once real estate got back in the picture, I was like, all right, this is the way. One, I like it. Two, I can make a lot of money. So like, this is what we're gonna do. This is what I'm gonna do.
Dang. That's I think for anybody, you made the leap going from W-2 employee over to self-employed 1099. Quicker and younger than I did. And not that it's a comparison, but I just want the audience to understand that that's not the easiest thing to do, to go from a consistent paycheck once a week or twice a week to no check coming. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people don't really
Seriously.
understand that. They think, oh, it's not a big deal, blah, blah, blah. But that's a really big mental shift, especially if you're going to school like myself. I went, did the whole school thing, got the degree for mom. She was actually asking me for it the other day, and I told her I burned it, but I don't know where it's at. I have it, but it really doesn't mean anything to me because that was like, it was one accomplishment. I'm not trying to belittle it or put it anywhere, but it's definitely not on a pedestal for me just because I think that I could have, became successful or continue to do what I'm doing with or without it. I met great people, don't get me wrong. If I were to go and do it all over again, it'd be mainly to network. It'd be to network, and I would take it a little more serious than I did at that time. But where I'm coming from is, going from, W-2 traditional employee over to the business entrepreneurial mindset and to totally take actions like you do every day. And we'll get into a little bit of that. It's not the easiest thing to do. And I want to kind of go and backtrack a little bit back to our upbringing. We did a lot of little things, when we were younger, to try and make money. I kind of want to say that maybe Ed, Ed and Eddie, the show when we were kids, had a lot to do with it because they were always trying to make money too. But I think we did it
Yeah.
even before that, man. Even before that show even came out. Like, for us, I don't know what was in us, but we always tried to sell and create things. And I mean, what was it like for you growing up? I know what it was like for me, but like, what made you want to be different? What was that turning point in your mind at that very young age? Because you were very money oriented too. Like your finances were always on point. Like I can remember, but I just want to hear it from you.
Dang, yeah. I mean, now that you mention it, I mean, we probably sold almost anything and everything we could get our hands on that was free. To try to try to sell. But honestly, I mean, this is one of the biggest things was back in like elementary school and everything, sports fundraising. I remember they would always encourage us with an assembly, sell this much things and sell this many uh, jars of cookie dough or beef jerky or candy bars and you'll get these prizes. And I always wanted the prizes. So I was like, all right, how much do I got to sell to get what I want? And that's what I would go out and set the goal. I need to get this, call them like the Air Zukas. They're probably like $5 or $10. Yeah. You pull it back like a slingshot, but it just shoots out air. And I remember I finally
like 50
got
feet away,
it.
right?
Yeah. And honestly, I never used it, but the way they had the assembly and the presentation, it's like you wanted the biggest prize. And so fundraising kind of started that mindset without me really knowing, is when you want something and they kind of showed you this is what you have to do to get it.
Yeah.
They kind of said, hey, here are the prizes, and each prize you need to sell X amount. So then that was already my goal in mind. I need to sell this much. I need to raise this much to get what I want. But really, and then from there, it was more like I knew I could be in control of what I got. I mean, you can't work at a young age, really, but like, you can sell some things, make $5 or $10. And as a kid, that's like, I made it, $10, you're like, this goes a long way.
Now you won a lot. Sorry to interrupt you, but you won a lot of awards during those times, like prizes, if you will, for fundraising, right? Because I remember the Air Zuka, you broke it, I think, or Jan or whoever. But
yeah, I don't even remember what happened to it.
I just remember you always exceeding, and excelling. I mean, from cookie dough to even when we had our newspaper gig. How old were you then?
I think I was like in third grade, maybe fourth.
No way.
Around that 8 or 9 years old age.
Yeah, because I think I started like the end of my 7th grade year, if I can remember correctly. And I just remember, for me, it was after our Uncle Patrick, he had a car wash, and I went and worked in Terabella at a car wash for a little bit. And then, I just remember Mom coming home and saying, hey, the Porterville Recorder is hiring newspaper hawkers. Here you go. I got you a job. And I'm like, what the heck? So just having that, but you were more motivated at that time to sell newspapers because eventually I feel like you took over my routes, but you were doing good. And so that's kind of what I want to bring. What was it like for you then? What was your mindset then, and how has it developed over time?
I mean, it was the biggest thing. It's like as a young kid, your aspirations are a lot smaller. Like you just want $5 or $10 to go out and buy candy or buy food when you're with your friends, or go to the movies, little things like that. You'd go to the store and you just wanted that, I guess, some sort of like control in that way. Like you just wanted to be able to do things. And we would go to the farmer's market. I'd go with my friends like on Friday night. And you just want at least like $5-10 on hand, just in case you saw something you wanted, or you got hungry or you got thirsty. So, and I think we never really got allowances. I mean, if it was never consistent. So it's like I knew I wanted to have. I think I saw you, taking steps to be in control. I remember you were making $37.50 on one Saturday
every
and
weekend.
It was like, I was like, man, if I just had that, like, I'd be good, So then I just wanted that opportunity to do the same thing, to work. And I think that was the biggest thing. Like I saw what I had to do. And at that age, your options are very limited. So whatever it was, physical labor, door to door sales,
Yeah.
standing in front of the post office selling newspapers. I was like, all right, I'll do it, because it's like a small sacrifice. Because then when I'm with my friends, I can do what I want, like
Yeah.
to that extent with $30, $40, So I guess that was my mindset. And like I said, more of like a smaller goal, but that gave me something to aspire to and to work towards. And then, I mean, I don't know if you remember when we started saving up, we wanted the Nintendo Wii. So we're like, all right,
Yes,
we
I
gotta
do remember
save
that.
up. And that was another point of like not letting our circumstances dictate what we have. It's like, okay, regardless where we're at, you can be in control. I mean, it probably took us a couple months, but we eventually had enough and, went to go get one. Like
Yeah.
that right there was just like, okay, anything's possible. It just takes time and effort. So, I mean, from there, I guess looking now, it's the same concept. It's the same fundamentals, just now different stages of life. You have different goals that you aspire to. And it's just, like clockwork, like, you can do it with this, you can do it with the other vehicle.
See, a lot of people I feel like don't have the opportunities that you had. And not to say that you're so far up or, anything, not to compare people, but I think it's very important fundamentally when you're young to be surrounded in positive and different environments, because had it been different, had I not been there or had somebody else not be there, you would have to be placed with that, information in order to, I guess, continue to excel, if that makes sense. So what I
Yeah.
also wanted to touch on is outside, obviously the paper route and everything, you killed it then. I just remember, just to bring up a little story, I remember one time where we were standing in front of the post office right there on Mill Street, and we had, I think it was like super cold, and I was honestly, I was getting tired of the rejection at that point, because I was a little older than you were, I wasn't cute, and I wasn't this cute little kid. I was like at that ugly stage in life already, getting a little chubby in middle school. And, I was like, I got tired of rejection, and I remember recording my voice like, hey, would you like to buy a newspaper? And I recorded it on my phone. And then I would like play back the recording, and people were just like looking at me. And I was like, I had my head tilted. And then here you were selling newspapers right next to me, and I wouldn't sell anything. I was getting all upset, at my competition that was my brother. And then people were bringing you food, and they were buying you jackets and gloves. And I'm over here freezing, like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? So I just remember these little tidbits. You remember when we used to sell candy and water around the neighborhood?
Telling people these stories now is like, this is hot water hose water.
Hey, we were young entrepreneurs, though. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I said. We had not lack of resources. The problem is it's the lack of resourcefulness. We didn't have many resources, but we made do with what we had. And threw a for sale sign on
How did we even come up with candy and water? Who had the candy? They were candy corns. We were. I think I was like.
I think it was around. Yeah, I don't know if it was around like one of the holidays, might have been Halloween or whatever, where there was candy, and I don't know if it was one of the neighborhood kids like, "Oh, I have this," and I'm like, perfect, because I knew it wasn't ours. So
yeah.
But yeah, they're just like, this is what we got, so this is what we're selling.
Our one customer was the that mailman that came through. I remember till this day, and he was like, "Man, you don't got any cold water?"
It was hot, man. I was telling Brene that recently, actually. I was like, you don't know what we tried to do for, just to make some money.
Seriously. And I think that eventually led to our yard hustle, when we try to do yard work. What do? We were banging on doors for a little bit. I feel like I did some of the work in the beginning, but then I started to like manage. I tried to like jump to manage.
Delegate.
I tried to be like the delegator of like the work back then. That was kind of funny. But yeah, a lot of little things, and where I feel like that took you in a great direction. But that I'm not going to say that was the one thing that made you become, this being of light that you are now. Like there were a lot of little things. I mean, let's talk about, the middle school stuff. Like you sold candy. You did all this stuff. You even got in trouble, right? When you were in middle school for selling, what was it, energy drinks or what was it?
Yeah, well, what we got. So we sold like I don't know, the friendship bracelets or what you had bought some and you were hiring some people to sell them. Yeah. And I was like, all right, I can do it too. So I was selling like these little, like hand threaded bracelets. I sold energy drinks, Monsters. Funny thing, I didn't really like those at the time, but they used to sell them at Smart and Final in a bundle. And I was like, hey, people are buying these individually at this price, so I can make a couple bucks. So I remember my backpack would always be cold in the morning because I'd refrigerate them overnight. So that way, if I didn't sell them till like the afternoon, they were still cold.
Yeah.
But my back would be cold for like the first half of the day. So then I'd be like, I got to sell these things. They can't get hot.
Yeah.
But yeah, then the last one, I think I was in 8th grade, started doing candy. And then I was like, you only can do so much by yourself, as an individual. So I started trying to scale, and I had like a handful, 3, 4, 5 friends, just like, hey, I just started buying more candy and then dispersing it out. And so I had like I said, handful of people selling it. We'd all be selling it throughout the day. And then one day, I remember I was in English class, and they come in with, letters, and they give it to the teacher, and they're like, oh, Sylis, they want to see you in the office. And I never really went to the office. So if it was something that I wasn't expecting, I'm like, uh-oh, what did I do?
Dang.
And I remember going, and I had a feeling too, because we were doing good. And I already knew, because some of the friends, it was like, when you're selling anything, there's always like a huddle around you, so that's kind of gives it away. And that started happening. Yeah, that started happening. So I was like, shoot, like people are going to start noticing, like teachers and everything, because you weren't supposed to sell anything. And when I get that note, they're like, hey, you need to go to the office. They want to see you. I was like, all right. I had like only 2 left, thankfully, 2 like candy bars. I didn't remember who was next to me. I'm just like, hey, hang on to these. So I had nothing in my backpack, and I go there like, all cool. Like, all right, hey, what's going on? And then I already knew, because I walked in, it was like one of the side rooms, and I see it was like 2 or 3 of my other friends that were also selling candy. I look at them and I'm like, I know why
they got
here
all
now.
The plug. They got everybody busted.
Yeah, no, they broke down everybody, and they had candy on them too. So I was like, dang it. And I was
wait,
like,
so did you hire them, or they're like selling on their own?
No, yeah, we were all it was all one operation,
wow.
So yeah,
they
that's
got
why
all your employees, and you're like,
yeah. When I saw them there, I was like, we're going down. I feel like, but I remember having the conversation with the supervisor, or like the security guard. He was just like, yeah, he was like, you can't be selling candy. And then I was just messing with them. I was like, well, I don't know what I told him or something like that. I was like, well, they're over here billing me for my lunch, like, giving me a peanut butter and jelly, because I couldn't pay my lunch bill.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they still do that, but at the time, if you were behind like 10 to 15 bucks,
even 30 cents,
it just depends. Man. Yeah, it depends. Like I had a buddy, I remember they finally billed him, and his was like over $100. And I was like, have they ever like denied giving you food and gave you like that sack lunch? He's like, no. I'm like, they always do that for like 10 or 15 bucks for me. Right. But yeah. And then, so they ended up shutting us down, and I was just like, man, they were cool about it, but I was just like, whatever, like, what can I sell next?
I just remember mom saying that they took your money. Did they really take your money?
No, they let us they didn't, they just took, well, I don't remember if they took the candy or they just said like, hey, you know what, you just can't sell this anymore. So like pretty much gave us a warning. He was like, if we catch you again, we're gonna have to confiscate it. So I think they just ended up giving us a warning. But yeah, thankfully, because then would have been broke at that time now.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, but that was a funny time, like I said, because I had my friends and everyone involved, and we're just like, dang. And it was funny because at the end of the day, we weren't doing anything. Well, I guess technically illegal, but we were just trying to make some money. But we're selling something people wanted. So
nobody respected the hustle back then. I mean, they do now, but I feel like, you can't really sell stuff at schools, and that's how it is. They want you to buy what they have at their little snack shops and all that other stuff. But those are funny times. Now, knowing what you knew then in middle school, because that's very early on, from a lot of the endeavors, from the paper route to, selling candy, energy drinks. I mean, I'm sure you made decent money then. Going into high school, I mean, talk a little bit about your mindset. Like, what was your goal? Because you did sports. You excelled in academics as well. What was your kind of thought process then? Like, were you interested in going to college, or what kind of like inspired you to? Because you went to college. You know what I'm saying? What was it? Our parents? Like, what motivated you to do that?
Well, I mean, yeah. I guess like the early years of high school, it was mainly, hey, these are the years. Well, not really freshman year, but like sophomore and junior year. You know, those grades are what you're putting on your transcript to when you apply to colleges. So it was like, okay, now, not that it didn't matter before grades and everything, but now this is where it starts to count. You know, these are like the years people look at your extracurricular activity. Like these are no matter what you've done prior. I mean, I guess it just depends, but like this is where they're mainly focused on. So I was just the same thing, you know, okay, got to do good in school, got to do, you know, community service, all these things. I mean, mainly just because how we were raised, we just had to do good with our time. And if
that's how I feel like, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it wasn't bad at all because it gave me a lot of different experiences, and I met a lot of people kind of in that same boat trying to do things for their future. And I'm sure at that age, it was just like, whatever, I know this may benefit me down the road, but I don't see it now, but I don't have to do it. So it's kind of like that. But yeah, I mean, and then college, obviously, at that point, I always just figured that was the only way to get out of the town, you know, go to college, you know, get scholarships. Like, I mean, that was kind of
small town, big dreams, huh?
Yeah, that was like the thought that was ingrained like in my head. Like, I need to do good to get scholarships to help pay for college because that's how I'm going to leave. Yeah, and I'm going to leave one way or another. You know, like it was just like it's just what you had to do. At least that's what I thought. But yeah, I mean, and then sports and everything. So honestly, I think I've learned a lot more from just the sports and the team activities that I've done, because that I think fostered and nurtured more of the characteristics that I carry on to this day. You know, work ethic, perseverance, working hard, working together, all these different things. School, I mean, taught some, you know, knowledge, things like that with specific categories, math,
algebra,
science. Yeah, those
from
things.
A predicate.
But looking at what I do now, or even in college when I moved out here, the things that really helped me were those people skills, how you communicate. Because now in college,
major
like
key,
they say, now it's not even about really degree, sure, but it's about who you are as a person and your experiences. And especially once you start getting into jobs, that they don't care. I mean, especially if you don't need a degree where you're at, like they're looking at who you are as a person, because that's who they're hiring. So at that point, I'm like, okay, it don't matter. I know, you know, I did statistics in high school. Like, if I don't know how to communicate, if I don't know how to be a team player, or, you know, do X, Y, and Z to get the job done that I'm trying to apply for. So really, like, I think I've taken a lot more of those traits and characteristics from sports and things like that I still practice and utilize to this day, really.
And you were, so just for the people that don't know, you went to Porterville High School in, you know, Porterville, PHS, go Panthers. You played football. You were in track as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. What else did you
do? Sports. Those are at least in high school, those are the only two sports I did all 4 years.
Can't forget the drum line though too.
Yeah, no, I was in the drum line for the last 3 years. First year, I think I had to do like the class to then audition this following year. Yeah.
I was going to say, yes, I did. Did you have to do the pit? You have to be in the pit?
Yeah, because I was in football, so
yeah. I like
I
like the tambourine. I like the triangle. I liked a lot of that stuff.
It's funner than it looks.
Heck yeah.
It's funner to play it than watch it.
I think one thing too that carried on with me for music is that when I listen to music, I have an appreciation for the production and little sounds that you hear in the backgrounds, because I'm like, hey, I can hear that, because, you know, our ears are tuned different.
Exactly. Yeah.
But what I want to dive into is the transition point from high school over to college. Now, But I know you did well academically. What I wanted to ask you was, did you feel any type of pressure since you're the youngest. You're the youngest, not that that's bad or anything, but naturally I feel like a lot of pressure. You were the baby, your mom's baby, even still, highly successful real estate agent and individual. And my mom's like my baby. I think that's for all parents. It's going to be like that forever. But did you feel any type of pressure having, me? And not that I did anything special, but like you also had Janessa right in front of you, a year older.
Yeah.
So what was that like for you? Did you feel anything? Or?
I didn't feel pressure. I knew it was just okay, I got into college, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna stick it through the 4 years and get the degree, check it off the box, and go on with my life at that point. I really felt more. I looked into it more in depth after the second year. Well, it was more like midway through the second year when I was coming across the decision, and the question is, do I continue and do I not? And that was like that at that point, because freshman year of college, that was not really a thought in mind. It was like, all right, 1 year down, 3 to go. Like, boom, this is easy. I'm gonna knock it out.
Yeah.
It's just like high school. 4 years. It's gonna seem hard when you're not at the level. When as a freshman, it's gonna seem hard. As a sophomore, it's gonna seem hard. But you're gonna get there. You're gonna get through it. You're gonna learn. It's gonna be the same thing. So I wasn't worried about it. But at the time when I was like, shoot, do I stop? Do I, take a break? That's when I started reevaluating. I'm like, okay, well, you had graduated, Jan's still in school, pushing, I know she changed her majors and everything. So it's still trying to figure it out and continuing though, sticking with it. And that's when I was like, it was kind of scary. I think it's scary in general.
It's like your whole life decision almost, it feels like, right? In that moment, you're like, hey, what am I going to do?
Because like at no point up until then did I ever think I wasn't going to graduate. That was never a thought. I just knew it was just a matter of time. When I'm at that age, I'm going to get my degree, I'm going to graduate, it's going to be done. So when that thought came in, that kind of shocked me, and like took me a little while too, because I was like, oh shoot. I remember I was talking with Brene, and the biggest thing that helped me make my decision is she used my words against me, because
really?
Because when we met first semester
in college, right?
Yeah, it was. And like,
for those that don't know, where did you go to school? San Diego. You went to school in San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego Christian College. It's located in Santee, California, out in San Diego. Yeah, and I had met Brene the ending of the first semester of freshman year. So at that point, about a year later, she was in the decision, and I was kind of giving her some advice. I don't know how accurate it was at the time, but I was just saying, hey, because she, I was fortunate enough to have some scholarships, so I didn't have a lot of out-of-pocket expenses. But she was on full loans, and she just had changed her major, and it still wasn't fitting what she wanted. And so I was telling her, hey, at this point, you're just going to keep wasting time and money. And because she was saying, well, I have no work experience. I I don't know what I want to do because I've never tried anything. And I said, well, maybe go out and work. And then, she couldn't because she was a full-time student, at least to get the experiences that she was looking for, not just part-time fast food jobs, things like that. She wanted real life work experience, in a career industry. So that's what she did. And when she made that leap, I remember I was like, oh shoot, like that's, you did it. And that's scary. Yeah. So then at the time, it was like a semester later, I was in that boat. We were going to get married and everything. And I was like, oh, I think I can make it work. And she had told me, she's like, well, do you think you're going to need it, the degree? And she's like, well, like, what do you want to do? And then I'm like, in business, I'm a firm believer. You don't, especially if you want to start and own your own business. Like, sure, a degree might help the education and knowledge to get to that point to start and run your own business. But at that point, I had a lot of experience and mentors that I was already following, from the network marketing days. So, I just felt that I didn't need it. I had completed 2 years, and I still felt like I knew just as much going in. If not, it was more like re-educating, saying information that I knew, and I was like, oh, okay, now it's sticking even more.
That makes sense.
But the biggest decision was after the second year, one of my biggest scholarships was dropping down. And so
Ooh.
I was going to have to start paying. And so I was like, okay, do I start taking on student loan debt for something that I really don't believe in? Or what do I do? And that was the biggest decision right there. And then she said it one time because I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna at least do part-time, take it slow. And then she asked me that question. She's like, well, do you think it's necessary? Like, why are you doing it if you don't believe in it? And I was just like, shoot. I was like, why do you gotta do that for?
I
So
remember the
mean,
conversation that mom, she's like, you need to convince your brother to stay in school. And I'm like, I can't convince Sylis to do anything, man. He's his own guy. And I've always, and I still do, but I've thought very highly of you all the time because I feel like every decision that you make, you put a lot of thought into it. You're not like me and just bam, let's go. You put a lot of thought. You're very calculated. I feel like I can be that way sometimes, but you're that way all the time. And one thing that we skipped over that it kind of like, I almost forgot because we're 4 years apart. The Vima days, network marketing. You were in high school when all that happened. I was like 19, 20 years old. So like, I'm trying to follow this path because I was in that in college. You started at what, 15, 16 or younger?
it was my sophomore year. I think I was 14, going to be 15.
Wow. And that's when we had to get the waivers to say, hey, I'm going to be
your minor.
Yeah.
Minor application. Yeah.
So,
no.
I mean, how did network marketing and Vima and the environment back then, how did that either change your mindset or how did that help you? Or, what did it do for you? Because everybody was a little bit different. There were a lot of people that we had over 320 people, I think, in our organization, at least, in the one that we grew in Porterville and Kerman and Fresno and all these other places. Like, there were a lot of people, that made money and those that didn't succeed. And a lot of people had a bad taste, of network marketing. I think what's kind of funny now is that everybody that used to say things about network marketing, and if you take offense to this, then it's about you. But a lot of people that talked negatively about network marketing over the last 10 years have ended up joining multiple different network marketing companies, and they don't see that it was like the same thing. You're getting paid to represent a product that's not advertised like on mainstream, but you're the advertisement and you're getting paid for it. Nobody really knows that that's in everything that we do, but that's besides the point. But how did that affect your mindset? Because we did a lot of personal development. We did a lot of events. We went to a lot of seminars. What did that do for you?
That was the biggest thing. Like I said, back in the first couple of years of high school, it's kind of going through the motions, knew what I had to do. So I was working on doing it. But 14, almost 15, getting into network marketing, that really changed everything for me because, shoot, let me see. There's close the window right here. Yeah. It really changed
from the closing. We'll talk about that soon.
No, it really, honestly, without that, I don't know what I would have probably been doing because what that did, it, like I said, I don't know how to explain it any other way than to say like life changing, because at a young age, and I think at that age too, people are still kind of going through the motions, 14, 15, you want to hang out with your friends, you want to, go to Porterville, you want to go to Denny's, you want to go to the movies, the bowling alley, the only three things we have.
Chill.
And pretty much. And I just wanted to skate. But then, meeting people not too far ahead of me, that was the biggest thing. You 19, Pat Comer, I think he was 20, 21 at the time.
Yeah.
And so, looking at them, I didn't see them much older. I was like, okay, after high school, I'm going to college and then I'm going to be in their position. Like, and these guys are telling me, hey, this is why I'm changing what I'm doing. And I think that was the biggest impact, is that it spoke to, I guess, our demographic. I might have been on the younger side, of course, but I was like, wow, I hear what they're saying. And I bought into that fact that,
mindset.
yeah, that mindset, I was sold, I signed up that night, me, Shane, and everyone, because we saw something that I think growing up in the Valley, people tend to think one way. Um, not
Very
everyone,
linear,
but
very linear though.
yeah, majority of people tend to think one way, and someone coming from the outside in saying, "Hey, this is what life's like out there, and this is
Outside
what's
of the Ville.
changing." Seriously,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
where it was like, whoa. And the fact that he came to the Valley was like a celebrity, like
right.
you're doing what,
And his
and how old are
BMW.
you? Seriously. And just, I guess it opened my eyes to seeing what is actually possible. And it wasn't some 30, 40-year-old speaking. He was in his early 20s. He was in college where
Yeah,
I was supposed to be, or I was going to be in, the
a couple
next
years.
5, 6 years. Yeah. So I was just mind blown. I don't know if I was naive and everything I said, everything they said, I believed or what, but I'm super super thankful because
Yeah,
it it challenged me, and I challenged myself to put myself to raise my standards to their standards because they were getting something that I wanted. They were in a position that I wanted to be. And I think everyone wants that when you think about it. Everyone wants time freedom, financial freedom. Everyone wants to be happy doing, traveling, meeting new people, unless you're very introverted.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so just saying, hey, these are the things that you can do, and this is the type of money you can earn. I was like, sign me up. So, but then, yeah, in the industry, they teach a lot of personal development, mindset, positivity, your environment, all these different things. These are the skills that are high paying. Speaking to people, communicating, sending a message, delivering a message. Those were the things that I started to focus on because I saw at the conventions, and looking back, we saw Gary Vee, we saw Eric Thomas.
Before he was Gary V.
Exactly, really early on. I remember when he spoke, I was like, "Who is this guy?" And I was taking notes, and I was like,
Cussing all the
"Oh,
time, huh?
dang, yeah." I was like, "That was Gary Vee," but these guys were doing it at scale, and they were way more successful. So seeing that, okay, everything they're teaching is true, and Eric Thomas, like seeing people that were very, very credible.
Yeah,
That's when it was like, wow, it's even more legit than I thought.
yeah,
But yeah, network marketing, I think, changed my life at that age because it just kept me dreaming. And then obviously once everything happened and it ended up our team and everything ended up kind of failing,
yeah,
I still had that mindset somewhere, deep down. I wanted time freedom. I wanted financial freedom. That journey of 3 or 4 years wasn't a waste because it ingrained something so deep that I couldn't get out of. Working as
yeah.
an employee W-2, I would do it so well, and then I would get to this point where I was
You'd be
just
upset. You'd be
unhappy.
like, yeah, same here, man.
Yes, yes,
Same
and
freaking
I,
here.
I,
It's a
I, because I
psychological aspect of it all. Like, I know that I'm not making the most, or I get what you're saying.
yeah, I felt like I wasn't living to my full potential. I was taking the safe route. I
Wow.
was going with the comfort and security. And at first, that's important. You want to have that comfort
Yeah.
and security to feel good. But then after a while, I felt like I'm just milking this. Like I'm essentially wasting my time here because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be, or I'm not doing something to my full potential. And then that's when I felt like, okay, I'm wasting time. I could have been probably a lot farther than where I'm at, like going back and thinking like, but maybe that's what I needed to
Yeah.
really, and that's what drove back up that motivation. Okay, this, it's the grind, you know what I mean? Working 40 hours a day, if that's
Banging
possible,
the
like for
drum,
yourself.
9 to 5.
Exactly.
I think man, you hit a lot of really good points, and you got me thinking about everything and reliving that whole journey. And I think one thing that I want to pinpoint: how
Grab the
important
charger real quick.
was it for you? Because I know it's been important for me. How
Yeah.
important is it to you that you've had and still have this support system that we do, our family? I mean, because if you think about it, man, our family, as much as sometimes maybe let's say that they don't quite agree or understand our dreams or our endeavors, they've never once talked us out of it.
Yeah.
They've been very supportive and maybe passively supportive if they don't have all of the answers, but they've always encouraged us to say, hey, like mom on countless of occasions has said, Steph, I don't really know what you're going through, and I don't really know what the right answer is for you, but I'm not going to talk you out of like what you want to do. Like,
Yeah.
go ahead, go all out. And one point where that stuck out to me is that I remember, being in debt before I moved to San Diego and all this stuff, and they were like, "Hey, I wish we can help you, but don't give up."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What the heck?" Like
That's
I
all I
need,
get.
yeah, yeah. So that, without having those little things, that support system was
Yeah.
and is till this day, I think something that I've relied on without really knowing, because a lot of people don't have that. But what does that mean to you? And can you pinpoint how that's helped you get to where you are, if it has? I just want to hear it from you. Like, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah. Um, I mean, family, meet anybody, they ask me what the biggest drive is, motivation factor, as vague as or as cheesy as that sound, it's
Yeah.
family. I think being raised in a small city like Porterville, it really cultivates that because
Yeah.
everybody knows everybody, and everyone's really supportive. Sometimes as negative they can be, or as
Yeah.
negative environments that there is, it's like that's the only way to kind of get through that is sticking together.
Mhm.
So moving out here, the big reason I moved out here is I wanted to break out of that small town. I wanted just to be surrounded by different things that I never had been surrounded by
Rails.
before. Exactly, just to be in that environment,
Mhm.
be the small fish in the ocean. That's what I wanted to do. But it's honestly, like I said, I've been out here a little over 5 years now, and I say this all the time
Wow.
to people. Like I always miss my family because I don't see them. No one, when you lived out here, that was awesome. But since then, it's like now, no one else is here. I see you guys on holidays or texting and talking, but it's different not being in proximity, you
Yeah.
know, because it's different. It's your environment. But
Mhm.
the biggest thing like that has taught me is that's why I should work even harder. That's why when things get hard, I can't give up because that's who I'm doing it for.
Wow.
And like my big goal is to eventually get to a point where kind of like reuniting our family again, and at least closer, wherever that may be. Here
Buying
in San
land,
Diego.
building houses. Yeah, that's where
Ex-
my vision's at as well. One day we will
exactly.
get there. There's
Yeah,
definitely a plan.
yeah, and I think the biggest thing too, and it's like no one. I have no pressure from anybody, but I feel like coming out here, taking that leap of faith, dropping out of school, getting married, all these different things. Like I've risked so much. I've come so far, not just to come this far. Like
Yeah.
I have to keep going now. There's no looking back. There's years ago. That's probably like I think before leaving school, that was like, hey, if I'm gonna, look back, that's the time. But after that point, making that decision, it's no looking back. It's I don't even see it as an option, and so that's why. But I think I'm so happy we have the family that we do because I've talked to so many people out here that don't have that, and it's
Yeah.
it's shocking
It's
to me. I
strange,
guess.
right? A lot of people
Yeah,
that live
and
out there are like, nah, I don't talk to my family. I remember when I was living there, and a lot of people from my work. I was an insurance agent, that, but a lot of people don't really know because I was kind of quiet about it. But I was an insurance agent for like a year and a half, and a lot of the people that I met there, man, like they didn't keep up with their family, their brothers, and it's kind of weird, just
mm,
because I feel like you and I are pretty close. Me and Jan are really close. Like we just talk. There's no animosity between us. There's like, there's no hate, and I think that came from our dad, being like, "That's your brother, that's your sister. You don't fight," or else
yeah,
he'd backhand us, like it's pretty crazy. But now with that, you mentioned, dropping out of school. How was that conversation with the parents? How did that go? Because a lot of people aren't brave enough to tell their parents, "Hey, I'm going to live my life and I'm going to do what I'm going to do, but I still love and respect you." And not that you came at them with that anger, but bro, I know a lot about, bro, because you're my brother. I know a lot of people that do not break out of that family mold, that like, that family expectation, like you're gonna go to school, you're gonna do that, you're gonna work here, and then blah, blah, blah. And the parents run the life of the person. And
yeah,
our parents have never done that. to us. They've had like check boxes that they expected us to hit, but after that, they're like, "Hey, go live your life," you know.
Yeah.
But how was that conversation? You know, what did that make you feel like? Because I mean, you came from me. I feel like there was probably pressure, I would imagine, right? Because Steph did whatever, you know. But how was that for you?
Yeah, no, that that's the conversation. That was part of the decision. And if I do this, I know I have to talk to mom and dad. So making that decision, um, I already had knew what was gonna have to come with that. And I think I don't remember, but I don't know if I called mom or dad first, and told them. I think, but either way, they thought I was joking at first because I'm sure I'm probably the last person they thought was gonna call them and say that. You know,
Did mom say,
probably
"Ah,
thought,
you're crazy, Sai"?
yeah. Well, I think I had to call her or a couple times, and have that conversation because the first couple times, or maybe the first time, it was just like, yeah, I don't. She just thought it was a joke, and then kept moving the conversation along. And I'm like, all right, okay, I got to try again another time. I remember talking to dad, and he was just like, hey, you got to do what you got to do. You know, whatever you feel like you got to do it. And then I always hate that because I'm like, dang it. It's like they're putting everything on me now. They're
You were
putting the
looking for
decision
that
on me.
answer like that. Hey, yeah, I know
Yeah,
what you're saying.
because it's like, okay, well now they're putting all the power. Well, at least dad was putting all the power to me, so it's like whatever decision I make, it's on me. You know, I was
Yeah,
like, dang, I have no one to to take the blame on this one. But then no, having that conversation with mom, that was the hardest because I had to give her more details, you know, and I was
she wanted to know your
finished up.
plan or what?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm that type of person, like you said. I'm very analytical, so I knew I had to have a plan before I made that decision. So once I made that decision, I knew what I was gonna do and why I was gonna do it, um, and my steps to take right after. It wasn't like drop out. What's next? You know, it's like
Yeah,
as soon as I went into the office and said, "Hey, I need you to unenroll me in the fall courses," I leaving that office, I already had a plan in place on what I was going to do. But yeah, having that conversation with mom was the hardest because growing up in a small town, people get judged based off education. And growing up, I had saw that. I noticed that lack of education puts you at a disadvantage in society. And talking with mom, that was the biggest thing she kept saying. She said, I guess she said, I told myself I would never let my kids be judged because of their education. So
yeah.
that's why she pushed so hard, which I was super thankful. But
Mhm.
so I remember having that conversation and me telling myself, I know that that's a reality. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Applying to a job with no college degree and applying and an applicant with one, if the job requires it or just wants it, they're going to stand out, you know, unless you sell
yeah,
yourself real well, you know,
yeah,
go in and get it done. But it was that, it really scared me because I knew what I was getting myself into, but I also knew what I believed that I didn't need one to succeed. But I think for a second, so it brought more self doubt. Like now it's real. Now all that talk that, oh, it doesn't matter, people are successful without one. But now it's time to go and show how that's possible, you know?
yeah,
So
yeah.
that was the scariest thing, and I remember mom saying, like, I believe in you. You know, you again, she really reverted back to like what dad was saying, like, do what you're gonna do, but at the end of the day, like, essentially, she was just warning me and kind of expressing a fear that she's always had. You know, she didn't want us to be looked down upon because of our education level,
The
not
lack
having that
of, yeah.
degree, because I think that's something that she experienced.
I'm sure, yeah,
In
growing up in
yeah,
poverty and you know, our parents did a lot for us, our grandparents have done a lot for us, but
mhm,
seeing, you know, and hearing the stories that mom will tell us about growing up with no floors, you know, there's dirt inside, you know, the restrooms have
yeah,
frogs and you know, that's crazy, man. Like I get grossed out when I go into places and I'm like, what you got, you know? But but like it's a different perspective and it's a different drive, you know. For a
mhm,
lot of people that don't know, we grew up with my mom. Like you know, when I was about third grade, second grade, she was already going through the psychiatric technician program at Porterville Developmental Center, and she's been out there shoot ever since I was a kid. Now, And I've seen like the constant progression of our lifestyle. You know, we went from apartment living up until apartment living and living with other people, and we moved like once a year. And I think that's why I've moved like once or twice a year. It just kind of stuck with me. I've moved so much in the last couple of years, but with that, you know, I've seen the progression of our lifestyle, and in no way did that really affect me or you, because I feel like they did a good job at not spoiling us and making us work for everything that we've ever really had. But no, I totally, you know, agree with what you're saying. I mean, that's a very interesting, I mean, situation to be in when you're like, man, I got to establish this plan and I got to work and I got to just continue to do it because my parents are just, they put the ball in your court, really, you know?
Yeah.
And now were you walking, excuse me, were you working during school? Because I remember you working at
Yeah.
CarMax and you had another job right before that, no?
Yeah. So in high school, did sports. So never, my time availability when I would apply for jobs like my senior year never looked the best to employers. So no one ever hired me
Yeah.
for like a legit, you know, taxable job, you know, where
Yeah.
they tax you on your income,
What
things
did
like
your
that.
resume look like?
Pretty much just community service and sports, academics. And
Oh, wow.
that was a big thing too. That's all, like, I have no job
Yeah.
experience, you know? So freshman year,
You
I
didn't
got a
put the
job.
candy in water?
No, exactly. That didn't count
Or
at
the
that point, you
newspapers?
know?
Just
Didn't
kidding.
impress
No.
people.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
our sales didn't impress people.
Right.
But yeah, I had worked in the student life center, and that was meaning like customer service type, administrative type skills that you needed. So I did that, and then I had also worked in the cafeteria at the school. Also got some
Oh, I
free
remember
food.
that now. I remember that now.
So yeah, so did like typical cashier jobs, serving food, mixed it up. So I did those two things, and then uh, it was June of 2018. I applied to my first big job outside of the school, you know, at CarMax, because I wanted to get into sales. I wanted to establish sales experience. That's when I knew what I wanted to get into. And basically coming from the Vima days, network marketing, I knew that word of mouth, you know, communicating sales, that was going to get me to a place where I felt like I was getting what I deserved. You know, I'm getting paid from the work I put in, not just because I sat around and let the clock tick. You know, I'm getting paid to what I'm bringing to the marketplace. You know, the value I'm bringing to this company. So I remember I applied for sales, did the interview, find out I didn't get the job.
Oh, wow. So you
Yeah, and
initially
that
applied for sales. I didn't think that you did.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
applied for sales, and that was the biggest humbling moment too, because network marketing days, doing all this stuff, you know, selling newspapers, all these things. You would think
Yeah.
I would get
Yeah,
the job.
yeah.
I mean, based on everything I tried to sell growing up.
They're like,
But
no.
yeah, and they told me like you lack experience, and I'm like, well, that's why I'm here. So honestly, that was the first time I fully experienced, not just from someone telling me like in theory, but like living that experience where they're saying you don't have enough experience for the job, not education, but you don't have the skills that we're looking for yet. So thankfully though, they didn't just say, hey, sorry you didn't get the job. They had, before, really thank them for this, before telling me I didn't get the job, they approached me with a different job in another department, the
Oh,
business
that's
office.
always good. So they saw
Yeah,
something in you.
thankfully. So I mean, I always look at them for, you know, kind of hate them for not giving me the job, but I also thank them for believing in me at the time. You know, I had just turned 19, like a month. I was 19 for about a month when I applied for the job, no work experience other than the cafeteria. So they said, hey, this is what we want you to do, like take into consideration. This is a hourly job. You're going to do this type of work, administrative, dealing with people. It's not sales, but we have a policy within the company. After 6 months in any department, you can do an internal transfer. And internal transfers are more likely to get approved. He's like, it's totally up to you. No worries. If not, we wanted to give you that opportunity. So I remember he's like, hey, go take a couple hours, think about it, give us a call and let us know. And I thought about, I mean, I already knew right away. when I talked with them, because then they told me how much I was going to make. And from working at the school, working in the cashier, it was already more. And so when they pitched me, I'm just like, I'll take the job.
Wow.
But
and was it part-time initially?
Yes. Well, looking back, I only worked part-time at CarMax, thankfully. But
that's something we're about to dive into too, because how long did it take you to master that administrative role? Because you were there for what, 6 to 9 months, I think, something around there.
I believe it was about 8 months, because I started in June. It was like a Friday, and they're like, you start on Monday. And I was like, oh, sweet, start making money. But from that June of 2018 till about February of 2019, January, February is when I did the transfer. But yeah, in that 8 months, I grew so much being in a corporate job, learning from people that have been there longer than me. That mentorship. I got a couple awards, and I was doing really well. But then again, in that point where I was getting comfortable, so that's when I knew. I was like, okay, it's past the 6 months. I need to make this jump, because I'm getting too comfortable. I'm getting lazy now. I already know the loopholes. Which managers I can relax, use my phone in front of, which ones I can't. So I was like, all right, that's bad, because I play the system that way. Once I know all this.
Same here. But it's good that you have this self-awareness to understand yourself at that young of an age, because how old were you in that role?
Yeah, I was 19.
See, and a lot of people that age, they just go with the flow. And I think that's what I did. My cycle tends to be like 2 years at most employers, because the first year you're excited, you're making a lot, you're doing well. And then, all right, you start to know the system, just like what you're saying. But now, how did making that switch from administrative, I mean, you were kind of mentioning that already. Did you say, hey, I want to jump into sales, or did they kind of pinpoint you and say, hey, Sylis, we want to move you over? How did that go?
They knew when they hired me that I had applied for sales. So they kind of knew I had that interest. But after the 6 months, like I said, I was getting comfortable. So I didn't apply for the transfer right away. I was like, oh, I like this. I'm comfortable. I know the people. They're giving me the days off when I request them. I'm doing pretty good. The biggest thing, the self-awareness. And I think the biggest thing what changed at that time, 3 months prior, is when I got engaged. And I was like, okay, this part-time gig, this part-time gig isn't going to cut it, because we're going to have to get our own place, rent.
Yeah.
And as the husband, once we're married, we are the ones that provide at the end of the day. And that's just what I believe, at least, if it's not always the case. But yeah, so I was like, okay. So for a couple months, I was already thinking, okay, I need to make that jump. But I kind of procrastinated. But I remember February, I was like, you know what? Time's just ticking. It's coming up, and I know what I'm going to make for the next 2, 3, 4 months, because I just calculate what the hourly rate is, how much hours I can work part-time. That's my check minus the taxes. That's what I'm getting. And I added those up, and I said, okay, this ain't going to work. This ain't going to work anymore. And the numbers were there. I remember looking at the numbers, and I'm like, wow, that stresses me out. Like, okay. So I knew at that point, I can no longer procrastinate. Can't afford to. I can't afford to procrastinate. So I remember I put it was all online. I put the internal transfer, and I didn't think about it. I came to work the next day, and the manager comes up. She's like, hey, did you request a transfer to sales? And I was like, oh, shoot. I mean, turns out the manager has to approve it. So she got that as a notification. She's like, well, you didn't tell anybody? I was like, no. Like, I didn't know. Honestly, I didn't know what I was thinking. Like, I'm sure eventually they were all going to have to know, because I was going to leave. But I was just trying to do it real secretly and, kind of just slide out there. But it didn't work like that. So she's like, you know what? Like, I believe you can do it. I'm going to prove it. She's like, I'm just shocked you didn't tell me. Like, I didn't know. I wasn't expecting this. And I was like, my bad.
Yeah.
I was like, you see my checks. So I'm surprised you weren't expecting.
Now, at this time, you were engaged. You weren't living with Brene. Were we living together at this time, or were you still in student housing?
That's when I had moved. As soon as I transferred that February, I remember that's when I had got out of student housing.
We were in the condo?
Yeah.
Alvarado condo right there next by San Diego State. And those were
that was the place. In those 4 or 5 months that that really had changed everything. Just got into sales, sleeping on the floor in your room. You know, I remember we getting Cardone U, studying those videos, and I was like, okay, now everything I thought I knew about sales, I'm in sales now. Now time to go make this, you know, crazy money that I always believed I could. And I remember I was like, oh shoot, it's the real deal now. But that's when that all happened, and it was for that reason, because that June we were getting married, and I was like, okay,
2017, right?
Yeah.
Man, time flies. That's for sure. Now, I know kind of how it went within that 5 months. I mean, you pretty much excelled very, very quickly. You won presidential awards. For a lot of those that don't know. What is President's Club? Excuse me. What is President's Club at CarMax? And tell us a little bit about that story, because you were part-time. You blew a lot of full-timers out of the water from what you were telling me. So, I mean, with that journey, like, did you originally set that goal? Like, hey, this is what I want to do, or did it just happen?
It really just happened because I transferred to sales with the intent that I need to make more money, and sales was going to get me there because they were commission-based, performance-based. I wanted to be on that type of pay structure, compensation plan, whereas performance-based. I never really, you know, asked people how much they made, but I had a goal, because it wasn't like a number goal, but just I need to make a lot more than I'm making now hourly. That's really all I had. It was kind of vague. So transferring over, I remember I would just go and talk to everyone that I would see on the leaderboard every month and try to learn and pick their brain. And I think people respected me asking questions. So even people would come up to me and like, hey, do you know this? Like, let me help you. Like, if you have questions, let me know. So people were super, super friendly and just wanting, I think anybody, you know, they see someone wanting to learn and they're willing to teach, they'll go and, you know, connect and, you know, teach them. And so that's how I was. I was just trying to surround myself with the people that were doing really, really well as a car salesman. I mean, it's, you know, as well as you can as a car salesman, really, and know what to do, know how to time block their schedule, and really no time for messing around. You're there to work. So yeah, what ended up happening in 4 months. So by the time we got married, actually, it was like right before, I remember, because that's when I had took my first vacation. It was for the wedding and the honeymoon and everything. I had hit President's Club, and I was the youngest person to hit it at the rate that I did. And I was just like, wow. I mean, that was all 20 cool and everything.
20 at that time, or
I had just turned 20. Yeah, right before turned 20 in May. And I was super excited. Like, you know, it's any type of award, I think people are excited, especially if they weren't really expecting them. But like I said, for me, it was more of, I just need to get to a next level to be able to support what I'm already committing to prior. So I was making these commitments, getting engaged, getting married, before I was in a position that I would say it was comfortable to make those commitments. So I was behind.
So in your mind, this was like a prerequisite almost, like, hey.
Exactly. So typically people get their finances straight before stepping into that commitment, being like, okay, I got this straight, I can make that commitment. For me, it was like, well, I already said that. So now what's going to happen if I can't perform?
Pedal to the metal.
Exactly. So like, again, I put myself in a position, my back was against the wall. Failure was not an option. And fortunately, you know, I did excel, and we were able to get married. You know, I was able to support and provide for us, you know, to be able to live, to be able to eat here in San Diego.
Yeah, it's important, especially out there.
Yeah.
Cost of living, and pretty expensive.
Exactly. That was the biggest thing, because San Diego is expensive. I remember talking, like, I didn't want to be one of those people that got married and had to move because it was too expensive. So I was like, you know what? Like, I got to do what I got to do. And I see people doing it. Like, it's possible.
Yeah.
You just got to find that person, or find that group of people, find that industry. People have what you want, and do exactly what they do.
That's actually what I was going to pinpoint of one of the lessons for our audience that is in attendance, or that will be listening to this when it's posted. But you basically so you had an idea of where you needed to go. You pulled from the people that were around you that were in sales. You saw the leaderboards, you saw what they were doing. You, you know, tried to talk to them, get pointers, ask questions, because in network marketing, they used to say, do what people do, say what they say, and get what they have every single time.
Yeah.
And so that's the biggest, one of the biggest, like there's so many life lessons and key points that you just hit on, within the last 30 minutes, 40 minutes that we've been talking. But that's a really big thing that a lot of people don't do. When they kind of get stuck, they'll just, sometimes like myself, they'll be a lone wolf and they'll kind of try to do things themselves. But that's pretty important. Now, President's Club, how many cars did you have to sell, and what type of time frame? Because I know it's not like a yearly thing. It's like quarterly, or?
They go by pay period, so weeks.
Oh, wow.
So it varied for part-time and full-time, because obviously full-time you're there longer, so they have a higher expectation of you.
Yeah.
So for part-time, and I was working about between 20 to 30 hours, because you can't go over, because then they got to give you benefits and all that. So they were real strict on it too. They would get mad. I'd go over and be like, hey, you can't be doing that. So they were very strict on the hours that I would be able to work. But for part-time sales, I believe it was like 54 cars that you had to sell in, I don't even know. I'm trying to remember. It was like 4 months, 4.5 months or something like that.
Okay.
Like, and so you have to qualify every few months, whatever the time frame was.
Yeah.
And not only that, you had to sell, I think, like at least 75% or 70% of the extended warranty that was optional.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't just cars. It was.
No.
Wow.
Yeah. So the ratios had to be pretty high. So you can sell the number of cars, but if you didn't meet the extended warranty, you wouldn't qualify. You'd have to get those numbers up.
Man.
So, yeah. And I remember, I think in sales, I ended up being, before I left CarMax, I was in sales for about just under 2 years. And I think I did a little over 200 cars total. So it was,
Dang.
yeah, that was a fun time.
Now we're going to get into some numbers here with your experience at CarMax. So you were how old to how old when you started and when you left?
So when I got hired, I had just turned 19. And when I left, I actually but I had quit April of 2020?
2 years
I quit
ago?
April of 2018.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So from it was 2016, June of 2016 to April of 2018. So yeah, it was just under 2 years. I remember, because I was like, oh, maybe I should stick it out for the full 2 years. But at that point, I couldn't do it. So it was just under 2 years.
So now with that, what type of income did you make working part-time? Now, just kind of give people a little insight on what your schedule was like part-time. I think it was like 3 days max, right?
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons what I liked about President's Club. You got to write in your own schedule. As long as you're still under the 32 hours that they allow you legally to work, you pretty much print out a blank calendar for the month, and you write in, I'm working 10 to 4, 10 to 3.
Oh, wow.
And you give it to them,
to choose that.
Once you're in President's Club. So I remember I wanted that because if not, they give you whatever schedule they give you, and you just got to show up. So, I mean, I had to do that at one point. I had to prove myself to get to that point. But after that, I remember I would only write it in. And you had to work one night. I hated that because they're open till like 9 p.m. You had to work one night at least. So I'd do like Monday 6 to 9. And then Saturday and Sunday would be like my full-time days. Like I would work from whenever they opened at like 9 to like 5 or 9 to 6, something like that. So I got majority of the hours on the weekends when the sales were better. When majority of the customers would come in. Yeah. So I only worked about 3 days a week. I'd go in on appointment based throughout the week if needed, but that was only for like guaranteed sales because I was very limited with my hours. So I really couldn't just clock in and just hang out if I wasn't gonna say anything.
Sorry. CJ's getting a little antsy. Hey, come here, buddy. Come here, buddy. Here, come for the camera. He wants to say hi really quick. CJ. Hey, it's okay. He heard something. Stop it. There you go. Now, with that being said, how much were you able to make in that last year that you were there?
So I ended up the year of sales. I think when I did my taxes, I was like at 48,000 in income, I guess, for the whole year.
Yeah.
So that, and to me, working part time, that was that, and that's again, I mean, why I left. I got comfortable at that. There's very few jobs with no college degree where you can put in not even 5 days a week. I was there 3, and then by choice after that, it was if I wanted to go in, and make over 40, almost 50,000 a year. So I was just like, okay, this is awesome. Sales is definitely the way to go. So that's what I was able to fortunately and thankfully accomplish at that time in my life.
And that's awesome. That's awesome. Now I know that obviously, we've been talking about a lot of the past, but a lot of your journey. And now you're in real estate. So tell us a little bit about that transition, because it was once again one of those, crossroads. That's what the word I'm looking for. It was one of those crossroad moments where you were working at CarMax, you were making good money, and then, you were pondering real estate. I remember. How did you, go about making that transition and being okay with it? Because you went from W-2 to 1099, and that's that switch that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, that was definitely a crossroad that I didn't want to fully make that switch right away. And I think no one does. You're at the end of the cliff and you're like, well, see how far it is. I know how to swim, but I don't want to jump, I
don't want to rely on this parachute.
Exactly. Everything that we said and we spoke and we believed, it was like, that's the parachute. And it's like, but when I jump, is it going to open? That's the question. Is it going to work for me?
I know it worked for him, but
no. But again, I got to the point, I was making at that for 19, 20-year-old, I was supporting financially, for Renee and my wife. I was comfortable, I wasn't in school, so I was just working and hanging out, having fun, doing whatever I wanted. We'd go out to eat. That's a big thing. Go out to eat. We go on vacations, we do these things, and we were living comfortably. We were living really, really comfortably. And I got to a point again, like I said, where I was just feeling like I'm not living up to my full potential, my full purpose. And I hate when I get those feelings because I know crazy changes are about to come in the near future. So I just had that feeling. And then our landlord at the time reintroduced me to real estate. And I was like, oh, funny thing is, I was looking to get into it. I was looking to get into real estate way back when, but kind of stopped. And she was just like, all right, well, if you ever want to know more, I'll show you. So I was at that point in my life, and we were married at that time for a year or so, and I was like, you know what? I think now is the time, if anything, because this is a huge risk. If I fail, I've always believed in the quote, fail fast and fail forward. So there's always going to be more responsibilities. There's always going to be more expenses, bills down the road. There's never a perfect time.
Ever.
So yeah, we don't have kids. We didn't have kids at that time. So it's like, okay, if I'm going to fail, this is the best time, because I don't have as much people or as much things relying on me as I am in 6, 12, 18 months. Because that's just how life works. You get more responsibilities and things like that if you're growing. So started the courses and everything. And it was getting, like I said, I was getting to a point where I was working both jobs. So I got licensed actually in April of 2018. I got licensed for real estate in April of 2018. Still, CarMax was my primary source of income, so I had to focus on that first and foremost. So September of 2018, I realized, okay, my real estate business is probably lower than when I even started. Like, it's got nowhere. It didn't even lift up. And Brene was telling me, she's like, well, you've been licensed for this long, like, kind of, what are you doing? And I'm just like, dang it, like, I don't want that accountability right now, And that so pressure. Then I'll obviously self-doubt and everything. Then I realized, or I was like, back to what I know. What do you need to do when you're not getting the results that you want to get. Find someone that's where you want to go. So I was in a class, it was a real estate class, and then I found a mentor. It's the team I'm on to this day, Michael Nager, with the Nager Group, and he's taught me everything I know up to this point in real estate, and gotten me to the levels that the potential he's brought out, the potential that I saw in myself. I didn't know how to bring it out. And I mean, sure, I could have eventually got there with a matter of time, but the biggest way to speed things up is find a mentor, find someone to teach you exactly what they're doing on how they're getting what they're getting.
Yeah,
Anyone
you really
can learn
close that gap pretty quick.
Yeah. To me, I felt that I wasted that like 6 months. So I couldn't waste any more time. So like whatever it has to do, if I had to pay someone or whatever, I need that mentorship and intimate guidance where it's like not just, oh, do this. It's like day to day. They're by me. I'm asking them questions. Like that is what was important. So then I joined his team in September of 2018. And then another, I think 6 months later, that April, that's when I was like, okay, I can't be doing these two jobs anymore. Because if you're not 100% focused on one thing, you're just, you can't be 50-50 with two different jobs, especially when one's a business that you want to surpass your other job.
Yeah.
I've seen other people do it, but for me, it just wasn't working. I couldn't see myself making money in real estate when I was focusing on my W-2 job at CarMax in sales, even though it was sales. I just couldn't see my business growing at that point, and I was putting in the work. So I knew I just had to make that commitment. And I was talking to a buddy at CarMax, and he was in the same position in life with another business venture he was in. And we were just talking, and he was telling me, he's like, you guys got to jump ship. He's like, here's the thing, when it's sink or swim, we're all going to swim. It's a survival instinct. You're going to persevere. You're going to make it. You're not going to drown. But knowing that and that fear of, well, what if I drown? That's what's keeping me. So I was like, dude, I know you're right. I hate that you're saying it, but it's true. So finally, I remember, I put my 2 weeks in and quit. And at that time, keep in mind, so I'm a year licensed that April that I quit CarMax. Hadn't closed a deal, hadn't made money from real estate, and I was quitting my job. So for a lot of people, that's scary. And I was scared. Still scared to this day now. But
when no one's seen a check, the last thing somebody wants to do is be like, all right, well, I'm going to go even harder. Most people don't see that instant gratification, so they give up. And, I've been there definitely. I can say, so I know that fear. Like as you're talking about that, I'm like living that. I'm reliving it with you in that way. Like, I'm just like, dang,
Yeah.
But I remember that transition for you, and I remember seeing you flourish after that, and it's brought you and made you who you are today. But I mean, obviously, I don't think you have any regrets. Like, maybe the only thing for you is like, I should have probably left sooner. I would imagine, right?
Obviously, looking back when things are going well, you're like, wow, I could have had this earlier. But it's getting over the fear and really, really believing in yourself. Because if you ask anyone, hey, would you do this job? I mean, at least for 6 months, 6 months part-time and 6 months full-time without getting paid, no one's going to really do it. Most people would quit by then. But, I knew real estate was was my next venture, because I'm thinking long-term, I'm thinking wealth, I'm thinking retirement, and I knew real estate is what's going to get me there. So I knew I couldn't quit, because essentially that's quitting on my whole retirement right there. My retirement plan, building wealth through real estate, through assets, through rentals. So I had to persevere, and quitting, that was the best decision of my life, because I jumped ship, and what supported me was my belief in myself. And then back to the family, Brene, mom and dad, everyone supporting me from leaving school to quitting and going and venturing on a real estate. That moral support has always kept me afloat.
I mean, that's very powerful, for a lot of people right now. If you're listening and, you're going through that crossroads, it looks very different for a lot of people, but a lot of what we're talking about, I'm sure you can pull from that, Now, I wanted to pull up your page. I wanted to show people, a little bit about you. I mean, you're very active in real estate. You're doing deals left and right. One of the biggest deals I think that you've done was this home right here, this $1 million home. Was this the biggest real estate deal that you've done?
Yes. In my real estate career, this is
I'm gonna put it a little lower. I don't know if you can hear it, but this was a crazy house, man. Now, I won't play the whole video. If you're interested, check out Sylis's Facebook page. But the reason I was bringing this up is because it took a few years to hit the big time. And, out in San Diego, like we were talking about, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of everything, competition in anything that you do. But what was it like going from where you were, your journey, up until getting this listing? Because I was actually there when you were waiting to get the listing. Like, I seen how amped you were. I seen the excitement in your eyes. I seen the drive, and it reminded me a little bit of myself back when I was your age, and even, different moments. But I'm like, dang, go do what you need to do. We were there on vacation, and, you had to make the tough decision of, hey, I want this listing. These people are waiting for me. I need to go be ready, so I can't go hang out and do the fun stuff because I have to do this. And that was a very cool thing. I'm beyond grateful that you got the listing, and I'm glad that you sold the home faster than, you could have. So you really proved to your clients, I'm the guy. I'm the guy to sell the home. I'm the guy to take care of the whole thing. What was it like? What did you feel? Because, I mean, that's a $1 million house. Real estate out in the Valley is nothing like real estate out in San Diego. It's completely different. So what were your thoughts? And, I mean, looking back and kind of talking about your journey, Sai, like, how are you feeling?
Yeah, no, that was honestly, that was like, I couldn't have asked for any better timing of you guys being there during that anticipation of, did they choose us? Did they choose our team? And that was that's the milestone sale to this date, 1,066,000 we closed escrow on, we closed escrow at. But I mean, it was crazy because the work, time looking back to get to that point, to get that interview was, I think it was months, many calls, many phone calls, many conversations with them, just saying, hey, let's meet in person, because some people, like, I'll be honest, sometimes it doesn't get past that. Over the phone, they just don't, like, hey, sorry, no, we already made the decision, and we didn't prove ourselves enough to get that in-person appointment. But we did, and went on the appointment, I think the day before you guys arrived here on vacation, and it was just now they were deciding. They had met with many other agents that specify in that area of Imperial Beach. Like, I was like, so many thoughts are going through my mind. Like, we didn't get it for X, Y, and Z reason. And, we kept hearing updates from the owner that, oh, they haven't made the decision yet. And the anticipation was just getting so, like, higher and higher. Like, oh, I just wanted to know at that point, like, did we get it? Did we not? So I can enjoy your guys' company, being being here.
I see the excitement, and you can say not fear. There's another word for it, but I knew your mind was elsewhere, and that's why me personally, I was like, I am fully supportive of what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just it's a different feeling knowing that, hey, this, because I believe in you, man. I really do, and I'm glad that everything worked out the way it did. Now, you sold the home for $1,066,000. For a lot of people out there, they want to know, hey, how much you making on real estate deals? Obviously, every real estate deal is different. There's a lot of different factors, brokerage fees, all that jazz. But I mean, if you want to share with us, what was your overall commission, for that specific home? And we won't tell anybody else.
No, you're fine. For that one, we'll just say we did really well. It was in the five figures. Wow. So that was it. It was a blessing. And to me, I don't ever really think about the price of the home, because it's not what I think about the price. It's what another buyer is willing to pay. So I didn't see this like, oh, $1 million listing, I'm going to make this money. To me, it was like, honestly, I would be happy with making nothing, because being able to sell the home is going to give me that experience and confidence. I mean, there's people, sure, that they'll tell people, oh, I've sold this before, I have all this experience, and they don't. To me, I really, I mean, I wish I could do that, but I just can't say it confidently. They'll know I'm lying because I
have
can't.
to know you're that type
Yeah,
of
like I
person,
have
huh?
to know inside that it's true, that I've sold, in the price point of $1 million, to confidently look them in the eye and tell them that with conviction.
Mhm.
If I didn't, I can't do that. So for me, I was like, if all I got from this was just being able to sit at future appointments and tell someone, I've worked in this price point, I know what marketing it takes to get it sold, to get you the price that you want, to get you the market value, if not more. That is what I wanted, because I know that was going to go a lot farther than one deal. So being now that closed escrow, that it's been amazing, just because now I feel, yeah, like I've finally sold over that price point. In San Diego, condos are 3, 4, 500,000. It's crazy. Well, this one actually was a condo, but it was over $1 million because it was an ocean front.
Was it
But just,
intimidating at all?
yeah, no, it was, especially because I've never sold in that price point. Thankfully for my team leader, Michael, that I think that's what really sealed the deal, is the dual package, his experience with mine, his experience with my hunger, both of our hungers, and drive to get it sold.
Yeah.
And they ended up choosing us. And,
Wow.
I always say, if I was by myself, like, I would have been probably at a big, big disadvantage, because one, never sold in that price point. Two, my experience is low compared to like years of experience. I mean, everyone has to start somewhere, but
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
agents that have been doing it way longer than me, especially the ones that specifically work in that area. They have been doing it longer than me. They've sold multiple in that neighborhood. They had the experience. They can talk with that conviction that I couldn't.
But they chose
So
you.
yeah, they chose us. They chose our team, myself and Michael, and it was a blessing, and like I said, you guys being there, it was like, wow, I can't think of any better way to celebrate than around, family and friends. But yeah, so and now since then, it's not like, oh, I made it, I'm on HGTV now. No,
Oh yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
in San Diego, $1 million, it's like, oh, that's cool. Now go do another one. It's kind of how real estate is. Once
Yeah,
the
yeah,
sale is done, it's the past. It
yeah.
only means
And I mean
something
that's
when
like
what.
no. Say what you're gonna say.
Oh, no, no. I was just gonna say, it only means something when you're telling your potential client your experience. It's really all
Yeah.
it matters for.
I mean that's just like any sales job though too. Like 1 month you're the hero, and then the next month, literally the next day, you're zero. Like that's how
Yep.
you're treated in most sales options, most
The
sales
first of the
games.
month, it's all over. Yeah, starts over.
Seriously, oh man, just that stress of quotas and stuff. I'm so glad I'm out of that like environment and I get to focus. Like working for yourself is something that's completely different. I mean, you had a quota when you worked at CarMax, and you didn't have like a lot of sales jobs like I did, and that doesn't really matter. But just the pressure I feel like of the quota sometimes when you're not performing is like, I gotta do this. I gotta get that
Oh,
done.
for sure,
Now,
for sure.
we've talked a lot about your story. We've talked a lot about what it took to get to that point. But we really didn't talk a lot about like your real estate journey, and that's fine. But for those out there that are interested in real estate, and um, I mean, whether they want to be an investor, a realtor, or they want to, whatever their real estate goals are, I want you to kind of maybe explain, even for homeowners, what is your thought on getting started? And let's maybe start with the homeowner and move on to like, okay, you're not a homeowner, but you want to invest or become a realtor. Where is the starting process? Because a lot of people that don't know, they haven't bought a house before, man, they're like, I'm going to own a home one day, and that's where it stops. Or I want to get into real estate, and that's where it stops.
Yeah,
There's no discovery. So let's start with, hey, I want to look for a home.
yeah. So I mean, if you are in that position, and I think if not now, hopefully it's a goal in the next couple of years or down the road. Um, So the biggest thing to do when you're saying, "Hey, I wanna own a home," but now it's like, what steps do I got to take? I think that's the question. Is one, call me. Two, just kidding. But yeah, seriously, I'm always open. I'm an open book. Tons of people have always reached out on social media. I'm
That's good.
more than happy to answer any questions. No obligation to work with me, but I would always love if you did want to give me the opportunity to represent you when buying or selling. But the first thing in general, where to start, is talking with a lender, because they are the ones. If you're not buying cash, if you're buying cash, it's a different story. Just check your account. How much can you afford? But if you're not, you need to speak with a mortgage lender. Go to a local bank, go to a mortgage company. I always recommend mortgage companies versus a traditional bank like Chase Bank, US Bank, things like that, just because they have a lot more programs to help you get qualified. Everyone's goal in the mortgage business is to help you get a home. So speak with them. They're going to go over all the numbers, all the financials, and saying, hey, this is what you can afford, this price point. Or they're going to say, hey, you don't qualify now, but these are the things you need to work on. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. People reach out to me, oh, what's your credit score need to be? What's your income need to be? And that, I wish it was a black and white answer, but it's not. Everyone's scenario is different. If your credit's high, your income can be lower, or if your debt is lower, you can afford more. So many different factors that go into that a mortgage lender, a loan officer are going to be able to accurately answer versus a realtor, because we don't deal with the numbers. We over time, we kind of pick up from working with buyers a lot and sellers, but we don't deal with the numbers directly. So at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to give you the green light or say, hey, you need to work on your credit, or you need to, pay off some debt to get approved. So at that point, they'll give you a price point. Hey, look at this price point. That's when we come into play. That's when we help you with the search. That's when we help you narrow down what you need and get you find the homes that fit your budget, that you can afford, and help you write the competitive offer to get it accepted and to be able to open escrow on.
What about job history? How important is job history? Current job.
The job history, yeah. So job's always important, because the goal of a mortgage lender, a loan officer, whatever title you want to give them, is how risky of a loan is this going to be? Are they going to foreclose? Are they not going to pay us in a couple months? Are they hopping around where they're making good money now, but based off the last couple jobs, he ain't going to be here for another 2 months? They look at all of that. So obviously, the longer the history at the job, the better, but that's not a disqualifying factor if that's not you. Like I said, all the factors they look at, they make a cumulative decision, not just, oh, he changed his job in the last 2 years, not getting a loan. No, they look at everything as a whole. So you could have that, hoppy job history, but still get approved, depending on all the other factors. But it is important. So if you can avoid switching or changing industries, that's always a plus. The biggest thing too, going from W-2 employee to 1099 self-employed, that is always a big red flag. And they want more history at that point if you go vice versa and switch. So just keep that in mind.
Okay. So I hope that was helpful for anybody that's looking into buying a home. I know a lot of people have reached out to me as well, just because I've been through the process. And I always tell everybody, I don't have all the knowledge, but, buying a house, it wasn't my first rodeo this time. I'm very, very blessed and fortunate that my brother was able to represent me in buying, a house, a duplex last year. I bought my first house. For a lot of people don't really know, I got it when I was really young. I was 21 years old. Wasn't my dream home. It was just something I bought. It was one of those flip properties. So, they bought it. I was looking at the records. They bought it for like $45,000. They sold it to me for $125,000. I was there for 2 years. I sold it for $48,50. So I made a little bit of money at the sale. I consider that property a loser though, because of the time, energy, and effort that it took to sell it, and all I had to pay into it, and everything that I did to maintain the house in that 2-year period. So I kind of got reimbursed, if anything, but I almost took an L on it. But the reason I bring that up is because, you were able to help me buy this duplex. There were many reasons why I ended up buying it, and kind of some funny stories of how long were we looking for properties for myself? Like what, 3, 4 months, something like that? We were just we were just shopping.
Pretty average time. Yeah, kind of looking around.
I think the Coda barking. I think the funniest experience though was the duplex we were going to buy in Fresno
with Eddie.
Yeah. Man, I was
Man.
dead certain that I was gonna buy that one, man. I mean, it needed some work. I think he was wanting like what, 230 for it. It was a 2-bedroom, 1 bath each unit, and it had a pool. That's why I really
Mhm.
liked it. It had that massive pool. It was an older home, but man, he just didn't budge on the price. He wanted full pop for it, and
Want a
you
full
know,
price as is, and those photos from the inspection and stuff, that was
yeah,
like,
sketchy,
yeah,
sketchy.
that
I mean,
was
it
funny.
did. I did think that that property was like fate. I'm a big believer in just divine timing and all that. I mean, if you notice my background, it's the flower of life, and I'm wearing a shirt. It's the new Luxic Vue shirt. I am change with the seed of life in the middle. So I'm really big on sacred geometry, a lot of other stuff. But that property, man, I felt it that it was it. But the doors open. That one kind of fell out of escrow because he didn't want to budge on the price, and I landed in this beautiful home, this duplex that I'm living in now, all thanks to my brother. And a lot of people don't really get to experience, I feel like, those types of relationships, or I mean, just experience that in
Mhm.
general. Like, I got a brother that's in real estate that helped me buy my house, and we that was a memory for us, and I think that was pretty cool. But for those out there that
Yeah.
are looking for investments, so let's say now that they want to invest or get into real estate, like with what you're doing, being a realtor,
Mhm.
what are the steps you think somebody should take in doing so? And is the market right now, in your opinion, a good time to buy? I know that's probably a burning question. I had a few people ask me to ask you, my friend.
Sweet. Yeah. Um, if you want to become an agent, it's very, very hard. There's only 3 courses you got to take and pass. It's pretty much it. So that's
Okay.
why I said in the beginning, everyone and their neighbors out here are real estate agents, because it's doesn't take a lot of prerequisite work. There's 3 real estate courses. There's tons of websites where you can just sign up, a couple $100, take them, and then you have to take the state exam. If you want specifics on the websites, just reach out to me or Stephan, and I can get that information to you guys. But yeah, you take the courses. They're about 18 hours each. So I think I knocked them out in like 2 months, 3 months, because they make you, oh, sorry, 18 days. You like, I remember I took the first course in like 2 days, but they make you wait 18 days to take the next.
Okay.
So yeah, the quickest way would be like 60 days. So about 2 months to finish all the courses as fast as you could. And then it's just studying and applying for the state exam. So it's very simple process. You do some fingerprints, make sure you're saying who you are and getting licensed and all that. You pass the test. All you need is a 70%. Test is only 150 questions. Yes, there's a lot of information. Yes, you'll feel brain fried. No, you might not feel ready for the test when you take it, but you only need a 70%. So that's it.
Question.
Yeah.
Did you read all of the dang chapters?
No, I think so. There's seven. There's 7 sections. There's
Yeah.
7 sections. I think I was like on the 5th one. It was like the night before my exam, and I'm like, you know what? That's over 70% of the material, so I feel like I should pass.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So, and I passed. And the courses and the tests are a lot different than the day to day. So, and I think like a handful now, like 4 or 5 people I've helped get into that process, and they get stuck in the courses a lot because they're trying to learn it like a school course, and it's not that simple.
Yeah,
Some
a lot
people
of
possibly,
definitions and stuff that is super confusing. I mean, a lot of people don't
yeah,
know. I bought the courses. Shoot, I think 2015. I was working at AT&T, and I was trying to get something different, and I didn't have that drive to complete them. I did 2 classes, passed it. The third one, I was like on that year mark, and it expired, and I was like, So then I was like, whatever. But man, that's a lot. It was a lot of studying, that's for sure. But it's good for those. I mean, you telling people you only need to know 70%. When I was getting my insurance license, it was very similar. And I remember, my boss at that time telling me, "Hey, when you take the test, forget everything you know after you take it because it's completely different." And I'm like, "What?" So I mean, I would imagine it's very similar in real estate. It's the same
yeah,
concept.
yeah. Like people ask me questions. Hey, I'm on this question. I'm like, honestly, dude, I don't even know what that's talking about. Yeah. But exactly. So that's why I always tell people, I mean, just go through the motions, study just to feel confident to apply and take the test, because it costs a
Yeah.
couple $100 the test. So it ain't free. So like, hey, get to that point where you just go for it. And if you don't pass, the good thing is they tell you what sections you did really bad on. They give you the percentages. So you'll know, okay, what do I need to improve on? But if you do pass, they don't tell you the percent. So my thought
So
is
you
I either did
passed the first time?
yeah, thankfully. My thoughts, I either did really, really well or I got like a 71%.
Okay.
So they don't tell you when you pass. So
Got you.
they just say
tell you,
pass,
hey,
thankfully.
pass. Well,
Yeah,
that's
they
good.
don't make you feel bad. Barely pass.
That's good. And now,
Yeah.
lastly, what are your takes on the current real estate market? I know San Diego is a bit different as compared to like Visalia, Fresno, but I mean, you are familiar with real estate in all those areas because I think you know, naturally living in San Diego, looking at homes over here is way cheaper. So I know that you've been talking investments and stuff like that over the past couple of months and, you know, years. What's your take on that? Is it a good time to buy?
So right now, they're saying the rates are historically low, and I'm hearing from buyers, from people, from owners refinancing that they're getting in the twos, the low threes.
Wow,
it's crazy. My first car loan, I think, was like a 3 or 4%. So the fact that you can get a mortgage lower than you can get a car loan, that's intense, you know, because this is a 30-year loan. It's for a home, something that appreciates versus a car where it's a depreciate. It's not even an asset; it's a depreciating liability. But so yes, if you have job security from the whole coronavirus shutdown, all of this, there's many industries that have been affected. If you are in one of those industries, then it might not be. You think as an agent, I'd be like, buy, get approved, buy. If you foreclose, it's your problem. No, because I like to build relationships with my clients. I like to invite them. Before the whole shutdown, we would have client event parties. You were able to go to the last one, which was awesome.
Fun. Had a good time.
I like to keep in touch. You know, I like to be a long-term agent and a long-term friend, you know, because we say when we have a client, you're almost like dating for that period of time. Some people it's months, some people it's 2-3 months, some people it's 4, 5, 6. I just had one right now that I've been working with this client. It's a repeat client, but we've been starting the journey again to sell her home since June or July. It's been so long I don't even remember, and we just closed. So almost 5 to 6 months again. It's the second time around. Like, you go through a lot. It's an emotional roller coaster. But
was that your most recent close?
Yes.
Wow,
that was last week or something like that. Yeah. Thank you. but yeah, so back to that point, if you have that job security and you can get approved, your credit and your income are good. You know, you spoke with the loan officer and they said, hey, this is what you're pre-approved for. And you're looking at homes and you see a lot in your price range that you could afford, and you don't want to rent. You want to put money into your own home. You want to have appreciation. You want to have those tax benefits. There's so many benefits of owning, not even just appreciation tax benefits. There's so many more. If you ever move out, you rent it out, and then once it's paid off, you have lifetime income as long as there's someone renting. There's so many different things. I can go on and on. But if you are in that position, now is a great time to buy. Yes, there is low inventory almost everywhere here in California. So it's very competitive. But at the end of the day, if your goal is to own a home, right now is a great time. Sure, prices are going higher. It's because the interest rates are going lower. So the amount that you could afford when the prices are low and interest rates are high is probably the same, even though right now the prices are higher. It's because the interest rates are lower. That's how it works. So a lot of people are saying, oh, I'm going to wait till prices go down. I'm going to wait till prices go down. Interest rates are probably not going to be as low as they are now, or as they're saying historically low, when prices start to go down. It's just how it works.
Prices might go down, interest rates might rise, so it might kind of counterbalance or correct,
exactly.
Right?
So yeah, now you're buying a home for $200,000 versus $250,000, you know, in the valley, but your payment's the same because the interest rate shot up. You'd be amazed on how much interest plays in your payment, you know?
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
Think
I've seen
about
some
that.
of your
Now
posts talking about it.
Yeah, now you're getting $50,000. I mean, that's just an example, like $50,000 less of a home. When you're shopping, can you always get more and better with more or less money? That's a question you need to decide. At the end of the day, we don't force people to buy homes. The goal is to provide them with the knowledge, information, and the market statistics, and they make the educated decision for themselves. But if that's a position you're in right now, and you're like, well, I'm renting, if my payment's the same and I can afford it, why don't I own? It's a great time to buy. But like I said, if you're scared of your job security and things like that, I would just hang on so you have a little bit more certainty. Even though you could get pre-approved right now, I would hang on until you get more certainty, because you don't want to be in the position 3, 4, 5 months later that something happens with your industry or your company. But now you're going to have to sell your home and foreclose or things like that. Obviously, worst case scenario. But if you're in that
you don't want to be in that position for sure. For sure.
And as an agent, that's something I don't really look into too much because I don't get into your financials, but I look out for you and say that, hey, if you're worried, do you really, really want to buy? Like, are you sure you're going to have your job? Like things like that, because I don't want to get the call that, hey, I have to foreclose. Like that's a hard conversation to have. Sure, I'm here to help, but
I've been on that.
Prevent that.
I've been on that end, for a lot of those that don't know, I'll kind of mention that really quick. Just what my brother said, he talked about if you're not sure of your job security, you don't want to make that or take that step. There's a point in time where I was working at AT&T, ended up leaving, and a lot of things happened, right? A lot of things happened. I had the mortgage to deal with. I had all these things. The money wasn't coming in like I used to. Bills topped out. But I was in that situation where I had to call my agent at that time. I almost had the house for 2 years, and I was like, hey, look, this is what's kind of going on. I don't know what to do. I, definitely stressed out. And she's like, hey, we can wholesale it. We can do this, that, and the other. All I knew is that I didn't have enough money to do maintenance that needed to be done around the house, because that's a thing. It wasn't just the mortgage that needed to be paid. It was the maintenance around the house, little things. I didn't know if I could rent it out because I wasn't that confident in renting it out and dealing with toilet leaks that everybody talks about. And that's a very real thing, and all these other things. And so I ended up moving and selling the house. Looking back, I wish I would have kept it. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. It's okay. But part of the reason that I made the decision personally to live and move into a duplex or even buy a duplex, because a lot of people probably are thinking, why would you want to buy a duplex? Why don't you want to buy your house and live in it? I read a book called Set for Life. I don't know if you've heard about it by Scott Trench, but it just talks about multifamily investing. And when I read that book, it stuck out to me. So that's kind of why I decided to, move and buy a duplex, because it's almost like living in an apartment, because it is an apartment, but you have a unit next door that's generating you income. In the event of a situation where you lose your income or something, you're paying a portion of it and you have somebody else paying, the rest. You can also do that with a regular house and house hack. I've seen your posts also, Sai, about house hacking. What are your thoughts on house hacking and multifamily?
Yeah, if you are not set on like the white picket fence home, having your own home, the backyard, the privacy. Some multifamily have that, but like not being away from other people, having your own property, then it's probably not the best option, because you are essentially like in an apartment, either upstairs, downstairs, or right next door, and depending on how many units you have. But I'm a firm believer that is a great investment, because just like yourself, whether you rent them both out and are collecting cash flow every month, or you're lowering your expenses and paying below market rent if you were to rent something very similar to what you have. But then like I said before, all the other tax benefits, you're owning, you're building appreciation, all these different things. There's so many benefits. And I think long term, and that's something I've really worked to try to get Brene to see. And I think now she's seeing that more, because now that we're married and going to have a baby, it's like, okay, we think retirement, we think generational wealth, we got to start being selfless and thinking for that next generation. And it starts with, you find your own avenue, but for me, it's real estate. And so if I can live somewhere, save money, and build equity and pull that out and use it for future investments, I'm going to get it to where I want to be a lot faster than just saving, because then that only counts based off your income. You can only save as much a portion of what you make. If you don't increase your income, you can't really increase your savings unless you lower expenses. But house hacking I think it's a great opportunity, especially for your first time buying, because you can utilize the FHA loan, putting 3.5% down. Exactly. And a lot of other benefits. You can use the rental income to help you qualify for more of a loan than a regular home. So many different things like that, where they really want you, the mortgage lenders and the loan officers, there's a lot of options to help you get to that point to purchase one. So if you want to look into it, I think it's a great opportunity. It's not for everybody. Some people want their own home, but if you're not too picky and you're like, hey, I'm interested in some, potentially creating, having an asset for me, but also living in it. So I'm not renting. It's a great, great opportunity. Highly recommend you look into it or read the book that you did to kind of get that knowledge and that mindset and that background of it. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean it's a beautiful thing to be able to house hack. Looking back, this was 3 years ago when I read that book, but I didn't think that I would ever get to the point. I mean, I knew eventually I would, but it was definitely a transition, and man, it's been quite the journey, even for yourself going through that. Now, tell us, Sylis, we've been talking a while. How can people find you on social media?
Yes. If you guys have questions about anything, really, I'm an open book. I love having conversations about real estate, investment, things like that, or just talking in general. Social media, Instagram, Facebook. My name's Sylis Pacheco, Sylis Pacheco, Pacheco. Message me, comment on my post, anything. If you want to reach out, love to talk with you, or just catch up or anything.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hey, anything that you want to leave? I know we've been all over the map here, with your story and real estate and just, life in general. What is the last thing that you want to leave our viewers here today with?
I mean, you guys pretty much know about my whole life at this point now. Just kidding. No, but honestly, I think the biggest thing is something I've always dealt with. You having that self-doubt of either you're too young, you lack experience, you lack X, Y, and Z. There's a lot of reasons why you can't get to where you're going to get, but it's possible. Find the people where they're at where you want to be. Get the mentorship, get the guidance from them, follow step by step, and everything is possible.
Awesome. Awesome, Sylis. Thank you very much. Just sharing with us, pretty much everything, pretty much your entire life. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Now let's do this. It's November 2020. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Or you can tell me one of your current goals that you have right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can do both. Next 5 years, shoot, 28. Wow, that's a long time. A lot farther than where I'm at now.
Hey, it's gonna go by fast, man. I remember being in your shoes. Literally, I was living in San Diego when I was 23, and it flew by, man. It flew by, and you're gonna look at the time. I mean, just continue to do what you're doing, but go ahead.
Yeah, no. So the next, short-term goal. So this by like next year, it's like that's short-term. Year from now or so or less. I'm already getting into the investment side now of real estate, fixing and flipping and getting into like the buying and holding. That's a little bit more long term. But yeah, so I'm not transitioning, but I'm expanding my knowledge and expertise to have that hands-on experiences with buying properties and flipping them and selling them and things like that. So long term is to eventually grow that side of the business as well, to whether someone needs me to list their home or help them buy, or they need me, I find a property I invest in and I'm going to fix and flip it myself. So just really expand my knowledge in those areas and continue to grow, not be stagnant, continue to find ways to improve and grow a person as an individual and then, in the industry.
Wow. I'm just going to say we can totally do a TV show. No. But we will be, property brothers. That's for sure. That's right. That's super exciting, man. Well, again, thank you for having the time. Thank you for making the time, to jump on the first episode of Luxic Vue Mindset. I think that's the name I'm going to stick with. But man, just hearing your story, knowing what I know about you, you're a perfect model for what Luxic Vue is, the persistence, the perseverance, and continuing to push on and overcoming that self-doubt and just embracing the moment, having that self-awareness. Again, thank you, Sylis, for jumping on. And yeah, that's the end of our first episode. Thank you very much.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
No problem.